John Ross, 212 South 6th Street, 3rd Ward, City of Blackwood Falls. I'm concerned about the mailing I received yesterday, the bulk mailing. I had a few questions and I was hoping I could get some answers for them tonight. First question was, who compiled the material for the mailing? How much did it cost to do the mailing? And who authorized the expenditure? Because I have some concerns about the content of the mailing and its accuracy.
Who compiled it would be me. Who authorized it would be me. And the cost is going to be about $1,000.
Okay. I'm not saying anybody put information in there deliberately to misrepresent anything like that. I am, however, concerned. It's my understanding this council voted in November to contract with the county. But in this mailing, it says there's an option for the city to restructure and go with a 4-person police department. Is that motion for the contract going to be taken off the table? Or is that still the action that the council intends to take? Because in the mailing, it says that's an option. But I was under the impression that the decision had been made.
Okay, it's an option if the contract's not approved or with the county. It's an option. That'd be the other option.
Okay, because the mailing didn't say that. And again, I come back to the numbers and the information that's being thrown out there. Can we really say that any number is the exact and correct number until either A, a contract is in place, or B, the referendum passes and then the city has to enact the charter ordinance?
I think you can provide close estimates, which is what was provided in the
Okay, what about the startup costs then? You and I have talked about them, Brad. It's a significant number, and I think the public should know what that number is.
And when you're comparing apples to apples, or when you're comparing the annual expenses for a police department managed by the city and a contract with the county, you'll have the startup expenses. I've said it before, that first year the savings will not be there because you're going to have to cover startup expenses. But in the second year, and all things equal, that's where you have to compare it is. Yes, you may have to use those savings the first year to pay for some startup costs, but after that first year, you start realizing those savings every year after that.
Okay, but then what happens if, based on the draft of the contract that I saw, at the 3.5-year mark, I believe it is, the city has the option to opt out if they're not satisfied?
Correct.
What about the cost to reestablish their own police department then? Do those, I think it's only fair that they be factored in because it's a potential cost.
Well, again, if 3.5 years down the road, I can't be a magician and pull a number out of my hat that says this is what it would cost if we came back to us. But I mean, quite frankly, would it be the same thing? I don't know. It all depends. I mean, some of those startup costs, a majority of them would be potentially, and again, it's worst case scenario if you want to talk about startup costs. Worst case scenario, in the unfortunate event that our current officers aren't hired by the county, then you'd have unemployment benefits that would be a major part of the startup costs. Other than that, you're talking $10,000 because there's 2 different computer systems, so you have some computer costs. And the other thing is training officers, which that training is the same thing that the city police department wanted as well. That the council wants a FTO program in the city, so the sheriff's department has to have it in place. That's what that costs.
But again, then the other question would be, if the contract is signed and those 5 new people have to be hired and trained, who's covering the city until they're ready to go? Is the county covering it and billing the city, or is the city keeping the police department and bearing the expense until the county's ready to go? Which way does it go?
Yeah, those are things that are going to have to be ironed out in the contract as well. But the thought is that we would keep going as we were until we had to switch over. And in the event we have attrition and officers leave, then yeah, we'd have to get into a memorandum of understanding with the county in order to provide that service for the gaps that we have.
Okay, but do you see my point with the mailing, how people might not understand all that and it may influence their decision?
I respect your questions, John, I really do, but I think it was put out and it was fair, and I did a lot of research on it, and I don't think I put out anything that was misleading or unfair.
I would respectfully disagree. I don't think anybody put anything out there on purpose to mislead. I just think that the information is not as complete as it could be, and there are potential inaccuracies that may or may not influence people the way they vote. And the fact that the council spent $1,000 to put that out there, I would like to have seen a little more substance to what was there. Because even though the document said it's not intended to advocate one way or the other, just from reading it, I could see where it would be very easy for somebody to feel that the case is being made for the contract is the better deal.
Done.
Thank you.
Scott Moldenhauer, 210 West Jefferson, Black River. I have not seen the said mailing. My question to you, because I have not seen it, does it say that these savings will not happen the first year? Does it explain that the savings will be ate up by startup costs?
I think you already stated the startup costs, we don't know what they are yet. It depends on if the 3 officers we have, if they get hired by the county, there really isn't very much of a startup cost.
So you have hidden that cost will,
Anything.
but you have not explained that.
In order to provide them fairly, when you're looking at what will it cost us year in and year out going forward, you're talking year 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and beyond, to compare them equally, to add in startup costs, that's not comparing apples to apples.
You have just told us that you cannot be a magician and project down the road how much it's going to cost. So don't say 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road. I'm asking about right now, with this mailing that you disclosed, did you say there's going to be a startup cost in there and it will not be reflected as a savings?
No, I didn't. I mean, the startup cost
Okay,
would be...
thank you.